The New Zealand government's COVID vaccine mandate strategy has cost countless New Zealanders their livelihoods and their jobs and their trades, their incomes, their dreams. I think it's really important that we document the stories of some of these people who feel very, very cheated out of the jobs that they once loved and treasured. We're about to speak to one such person now.
Hi, I'm Janet. I am a primary trained teacher from many years ago, but for the last 7 years I have worked as a teacher aide. And up until November 2021, 15th of November, when I was no longer allowed on the premises to continue with the special needs children that I was helping in a special character school. A hugely stressful time. I do have to say the principal was awesome and paid me till the end of the year, but that was my only source of income. Been there for 3 years and really enjoyed the school. It caused heaps of division between our staff members there. I was only one of 4 that left from the staff. At the same time, my daughter, who worked in early childhood education, excellent teacher, was being mandated out of her position in an early childhood centre in Auckland. So it was double stress for me with not being able to travel freely to go and support her, and we had a pretty rough time.
How does someone who's mild-mannered, calm, quiet like yourself, end up being someone that's really concerned about the COVID-19 issue? How did that happen for you?
So much has happened in the last 2 years. It's hard to remember where the beginning is. In fact, you featured in my beginning of this. I just saw too many lies, too many things that didn't ring true. It just didn't make sense. That first lockdown, absolutely sucked in totally. I was staying with some friends. We used to watch the 1 o'clock broadcast every day. And then when I left that environment, I started talking to people and just big questions.
Were they sort of born out of fear? Was it out of a sense of hysteria? Was it out of uncontrollable concern?
I think it was mainly talking to my brother, for instance, and some friends who had questions for longer than me and had done reading and research on other issues than the actual COVID-19 thing. And I just became aware of things not being how they were being portrayed on the TV through our Prime Minister, and there was so much being drummed into us all the time. It clearly wasn't the emergency that they portrayed it to be in the beginning.
You're someone that's worked with children on and off for a lot of years. You love children, you care for them?
Yes, absolutely, especially ones who struggle in the school environment.
One of the things that's come out in the data that the government now admits to is children are the least at risk from COVID-19. What's called the infection fatality rate, or IFR, is how the government is able to put into a percentage survivability for someone if they come across COVID-19. Now, children are in the lowest of the lowest risk groups for COVID-19, yet the government has shown clearly the COVID-19 injections are potentially problematic to a young person's or to any person's health. The most recent CALM report, 64,000 New Zealanders have had adverse events from receiving the COVID-19 jab. Given that the children are in the lowest of the low risk groups, and given the potential for harm, would you be recommending the COVID-19 injection to any child that you know of?
Absolutely not. Totally can't see any justification at all for children to be receiving this.
An interesting thing in talking to you earlier is that you're working with special needs kids, you're at a school, you're in a job that you love, you get on with the principal, everything's good, you're having a great career, then suddenly you get a little knock on your door with a love letter telling you that you needed to get a COVID-19 vaccine.
We were told that we needed to have 1 jab by the 15th of November. Prior to that, we had to give confirmation. So, of course, there was no confirmation from me, and so then there was a letter saying I haven't received confirmation that you've had your jab, and so we will need to meet and talk through what's going to happen. And my immediate boss had spoken to me about totally respecting my decision, so there was no coercion at that stage. There wasn't any why really, but it was a very stressful time because I knew that this date was looming. And there was absolutely no way that I was going to succumb to it. The thing that really got me with the schools was because the Ministry of Ed is just an arm of the government, right? So they have their directives and the bulletins that used to come out with all the government rhetoric on it, and I couldn't read a lot of them. It just left me cold. And to me, if these schools had stood up and said, no, we're not implementing this type of apartheid, we wouldn't be where we are today. But because they're funded by the government, I suppose, but it's nothing I've ever seen before.
What happened on D-Day when they told you that you were losing your job because you weren't vaccinated?
So we had the meeting with the principal. So in the context of the environment, we had a morning tea on the Friday because the mandates came in at midnight on the Monday, but it was all very hush-hush. It was never acknowledged openly that myself and the other 3 people, this was why we were leaving. Everybody knew it, of course. I'm sure there was a lot of discussion behind our backs. And I had a few people say to me, we've always known your stance. You've stayed true to yourself. You've never pretended to be otherwise. I didn't experience any open ostracisation until I was going to go back for the end of year luncheon, and I had a call before then, and they said,
don't bother.
There's some people here that are not comfortable.
Don't come.
With it. Yeah.
Given that you love your job and you treasure it and you love the kids with it, that's a pretty big decision to say no to a jab, to stand up and say, no, I'm not comfortable putting this jab that there's not enough data that tells me I'm safe to take it. What actually led you to think, no, I'm not taking this thing? Why?
It just didn't sit right. And why were they forcing it? There was no evidence. There weren't people dropping like flies from this supposed virus. What was the big deal, you know? And I wanted to stand up, I guess, for people who perhaps couldn't. I didn't really have anything to lose. I was fairly secure financially, and to me it was just the right thing to do. I just couldn't.
It's a matter of principle, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I just was not trusting of the research that I'd done about what was going to go into my body.
When you now see information that there was indeed a basis for your concern about your own health if you took that jab, the CALM report, the New Zealand Adverse Reactions Report, says there's 64,000 New Zealanders that have reported harmful effects, 3,500 of those serious, 1,000 of those involving myocarditis, pericarditis, 100 heart attacks, well over 100 strokes, anaphylaxis, Bell's palsy, blood clots, everything you can imagine, not to mention the 66 babies that were lost. Now that this is all out, you see that there was a basis for you to have concern. And now that the government has dropped the vaccine mandates, has your former employers been in touch with you at all about that?
No, they haven't been in touch, but I've heard indirectly that there probably would have been a job there for me had I chosen to take it up. And again, the principal was really good because I work year by year contract. He said, happy to have you back next year, and we left the start date open because then they were talking about the booster being mandated. I got in touch with him and I said, thank you, but I won't be back because again, I didn't agree with what was being forced upon people. But I know people in the groups that I'm in who are teachers, and they have been in touch with schools, even people looking to relief teach, and those schools are still enforcing the mandates basically.
Well, even though the government has said
Correct.
No need to enforce them,
Yes.
they're still doing that?
Yes.
You seem very calm and very collected and very sensible. Do you have a hygiene problem?
I don't think so.
Do you have a collection of lovely tinfoil hats at home? Do you? No? Okay. Do you find yourself alone late at night on a keyboard sending the Prime Minister nasty messages?
Absolutely
No,
not.
none of that? Don't tend to swim in a river of filth?
No.
How do you feel when they called everybody conspiracy nut jobs, tinfoil hat wearers, etc., etc.? 3 months ago, our Prime Minister, in front of an international audience at Harvard University, describes anybody that has an issue with her narrative as a lone keyboard warrior, unacquainted with adequate hygiene practices, who wears a superhero costume. You're not sitting here dressed like Batwoman or Wonder Woman, so I guess that's not happening either. Government said no more lockdowns, because, you know, the harm they cause far outdoes any benefit of them. 0% COVID or the elimination strategy hasn't worked. We're going to get rid of that. Oh, you can wear masks if you want to, if you're not comfortable, but we don't recommend that anymore. And yet they're still talking about people who've got a problem with the narrative that the jab is 100% protective, 100% safe. If you get it, you won't get sick. If you get it, you won't pass it on. Lockdowns work. Now that's all been disproven and you're still getting called a conspiracy nut job. Is the media and the government telling the truth?
I gave up watching mainstream media a long time ago. She is no longer my Prime Minister. I've renounced her a long time ago also. I can't bring myself to say her name, quite honestly. And when I watch this stuff she delivers overseas and through these speeches, I guess frustration is the biggest thing I experienced. People I thought were a bit more savvy can't see through all the spin
Yeah.
that we're being given.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No.
I mean, I've gone through an angry stage, the hatred, and while I haven't had people, friends, reject me openly, I've certainly had people that no longer stay in touch with me because I've made no secret of how I feel about things, and I try to get the word out as much as possible to counteract. I mean, the media just leave me cold.
The media is out there and it's still driving the message of the government 100 miles an hour. In fact, as fast as it can. And Lord help if you speak up and you speak against the government narrative, they attack you. They've gotten involved even in the local politics, local government politics now, in the elections. New Zealand media is interfering with that. Do you see a correlation just in your everyday layperson's appreciation, just like mine? Do you believe that the New Zealand media has been weaponised by the government to portray an ideology?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. They're just the government mouthpiece. I find myself laughing at them actually more than anything because the stuff they put out, the Fire and Fury documentary, I know some people got upset. There was a lady at a meeting last night, she looked at it and thought it was terrible. I mean, partway through, I just started laughing. To me, it was absolutely ridiculous.
I guess they've had 57 million reasons to do what the government has said. What do you think?
Exactly.
Last question for you. Do you feel that you will ever be able to trust this government or any government again?
Never. Never. In fact, I trust very few people now in authority. I've done a complete 180-degree turn in the last 2 years. I was the most politically apathetic, go along with the flow, trusted that the government and the local government was there to do the best by all of us, and man, have my eyes been opened, and I will never trust a government again. Ever.
Well, I'm glad your eyes are open and I'm glad you've been with me today. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Is there another job on the horizon for you in education, do you think? Or what's next for Janet?
I've recently been able to go back to a little 2-classroom school. It's a special character school, and I always said I would not go back and work for the ministry, and I will never go back. And it's only a little part-time job. It was by word of mouth, and I did it for the family than anything else. And that will be finishing at the end of the year, and I will never work for the ministry again.
Awesome. Thank you for your stand, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you.